Welcome to Live and Learn, the only podcast that starts on time every time. I'm the Soy Pill. With me, as always, Hutch, Pisco, and IRI. And special guest today, Dylan Burns.
Hello, hello. Hello, hello.
All the way from the country of
Ukraine.
Ukraine. Yeah, that's right.
You have to think about it.
No, I have to give it a pause. I got to give a pause for a dramatic effect. It's not that I'm still in Ukraine. I go back and forth. I think some people just kind of, I don't know, they see me like teleport back and forth, or they just think I'm in Ukraine all the time. But I make two trips. I make like 2 4-month long trips a year at this point. At the start, I was in there for 8-9 months for, I think, the first 2 years. But past that, I had to go back and forth to manage family stuff back home and just try to like recharge a little bit, because I'm trying to go to the front line at least like once every week or two. Like, I'm trying to be as active as possible, trying to film on the front, because that's the only way you're going to get anything. But that also means that I do need to recharge.
But Dylan, the question on everyone's mind is, are you bored of Ukraine? It seems everyone is bored of Ukraine. I mean, there's so many more new wars, more interesting and relevant wars. So what's going on? Why are you still there?
Well, I think there's a few things that interest me about this country. I think the first thing is it's really big, and so there's quite a lot you can actually explore. The mountainous Carpathian region is beautiful. There's of course, Kherson, which has a litany of stories you could cover. I guess for me, it's just that the scale of the war means that if I throw myself in any direction, I'll find something important to document. When I went to Kherson to document the flooding that happened, I didn't know that would eventually turn into me documenting the Russians bombing aid workers as they tried to, stop people from drowning. And so I think that they're constantly being like righteous, like issues to cover here, stuff to put a camera at and to show people, always keeps dragging me back to the point where when I go home, I start to feel like a tinge of guilt in my stomach the longer I'm home and I'm away and I see stories, I see developments on the front line. It gets to the point where I get this itch where I just have to go back.
Well, I mean, the serious question follow-up to that is, why do you think this has kind of fallen out of the political conversations, in terms of it is still just as active, it still requires just as much attention, maybe more important than ever? And I don't remember the last time I heard a politician talking about this without like some niche conversation on the side.
I think there's a few reasons. I think number one is there's other stuff in the news, and for most people, their interaction with the war is with like quick news lines, or like they hear about maybe 1, maybe 2 massacres. They might know the word Bucha, but they're not following the day-to-day developments on the front line. I mean, many of the people who did at the start of the war are gone. 80% of the journalists I saw here in 2022, 90% of them have left the country, and I don't really see them anymore, right? Because they've moved on to other conflicts, they've moved on to other things, or they've punched that card. They're like, I had one close call and that's enough. And I saw a lot of that in Kherson. And so I think part of it is journalists have moved on. Part of it is that mainstream media and how they report on it, they've moved on, because they have come to the conclusion that it's not as interesting. It's not pulling in viewership. People's eyes move on to other conflicts, which might have other dimensions that are of interest. I mean, Palestine obviously has extremely partisan implications in the United States. It is a long religious issue in the United States. It has history there. It has history with our direct involvement. There's a deep relationship between the United States and Israel. And so I think when another war happens, it's the fresher war, and especially when the rhetoric around the war in Palestine was kind of divided about what we should do. That wasn't really the issue when the war in Ukraine started. The divisions about what we should do happened as time went on and the backlash developed. Because originally, the people who were against helping Ukraine didn't have a plan. All the people who were against helping Ukraine said that the war wouldn't happen. And nobody's going to listen to the people who just said the war wasn't going to happen in the first place about what we should do. But as time has gone on, and people just know that the front line is grinding forward, there's no flashy developments. At the start of the war, you had the march on Kiev, you had people putting your like rifles outside the window, but now you go to the front and it's just miles and miles of pock marks and like trenches full of corpses and people like trying to crawl over the same avenue again and again and again. And while that has a bleak, macabre interest, both to me and to a lot of people, there's, of course, like a national defense interest it just doesn't ring the same way, I guess, after 4 or 5 years. I think a lot of it ultimately is you don't care about what you don't know. Most people don't know about the human safari. Most people don't know about a lot of the worst war crimes that have happened since Bucha. And so if journalists and mainstream media don't do the job to put it in front of people, then people don't know that they should care because they don't know about it.
Dylan, something that's come up in recent discourse is the idea that it's going to take America a really long time to repair our reputation. I'm curious your experience speaking with Ukrainians about America. Do they have, is most of their smoke for Donald Trump, or do they have a negative opinion about Americans broadly, given that he swept the swing states and won the popular vote?
I mean, Trump represents the United States. People can make a separation between a government and their people, especially when you're talking to people who, I was part of the Soviet Union, but I won't, I'm not represented by the Soviet Union, or, I'm represented by the Ukrainian government, but I'm not Zelensky, or I'm not Yarmak, or I'm not any of the opposition. So people here can make that divide. But ultimately, Trump represents the United States. And so when Trump acts like a buffoon on the world stage, that is the United States representing itself as a buffoon on the world stage. It was strange, though, because I remember meeting Ukrainians that were pro-Trump. And it wasn't like one or two of them. It was actually a significant portion during the campaign. And this is something that kind of shakes people weird, but Trump came out and he pitched a miracle. And when you've been in the worst shit, the worst war possible. I mean, your family members are getting hunted on the street to practice drone targeting. Your houses have been burnt down. Sometimes I've met people who've lost 3 houses, where they've been displaced 3 times over the period of the war, from the Donetsk region to deeper into the Donetsk region, and now into this tiny little pocket that J.D. Vance now wants to negotiate away. You've been through all of the worst, terrible stuff. And when Trump comes out and he says, I'll end it in 24 hours. And you know what? If Russia doesn't listen, I'll punish them. And you're Ukrainian. You're like, well, of course the Russians won't listen. They've never listened to us. So what's going to happen? He's going to have to come down on them. He's going to have to deliver on this promise. My fixer, who has brought me to the worst places imaginable in this country, he was one of these people. He was one of the people who thought, maybe Trump will actually be able to do something. And since then, all of those people are like, yeah, I was wrong. I fell for it. I just wanted it to be true, which, I mean, that's understandable. And that's why I think what Trump was saying is so pernicious, not only because it was a lie, but it was selling false hope. And he hasn't just done it in Ukraine. He has also done it in Iran.
100%. Yeah, no, it's really interesting to me. A lot of the echoes that we're seeing in terms of Trump's personality and its effect on the war were already previewed in the Ukrainian conflict. The first is impatience. I mean, it doesn't really seem that in the conflict with Iran that Trump has the patience to conduct any kind of coherent strategy over a long period of time. He just wants to get things done quickly, and he quickly gets aggravated when it doesn't work out. This was all known if you followed and tracked him during Ukraine. Same thing in terms of the actual warfare. Everyone's sort of now talking about the asymmetric economies of scale and the innovation of drones and how they completely change the dynamics of the Strait of Hormuz. But of course, who became experts in drone warfare? I mean, this has been a development that occurred on the battlefield in Ukraine as well. And the final piece that I want you to respond to is the kind of effect of Trump's speech. Robert Pape made this comment about Trump's declaration against the civilization of Iran when he said he's going to destroy the civilization, that will have long-term effects. We've moved on in America, but the Iranian people won't forget that rhetoric. And I think back to that infamous meeting in the Oval Office with J.D. Vance, Trump saying we have all the cards. I'm wondering and curious what kind of effect that rhetoric has in Ukraine. And do you see any of those echoes in the current conflict in Iran?
I mean, it's definitely having an effect in the terminology and way people talk. It's literally bled into the lexicon of Ukrainians. When Ukrainians achieve something, you know what they say? They say things like, hey, it looks like we have cards after all. That's something I hear like constantly. Like anytime I see them, like, for example, record setting like damage to the Russian port infrastructure, where they disable over 40% of their port infrastructure that exports oil. I mean, that's directly strangling what the Biden administration told them not to, showing that, when the United States works with the Ukrainians and gives them things, it will take decisions that might not even benefit them, but benefits its benefactors like the United States it can decide it no longer has an interest in that. Why does Ukraine care what the price of oil internationally is? Their country is on fire. So if they want to target the Russian energy infrastructure, even if it sends energy prices up to a politically unpalatable amount, which is something that Trump is struggling with right now, why wouldn't they? Their country, again, is on fire. And it shows that they have cards. And so I hear this terminology quite a bit. They didn't appreciate the dismissiveness from Trump. They didn't appreciate the fact that they've all seen what Zelensky said in that meeting to come about to be true. Hey, hey, the war will come to you eventually too. When Zelensky was talking in that way, he wasn't saying, one day there's going to be Russian soldiers taking Omaha, you're going to have like a Red Dawn type situation. He meant that the type of technology that Ukraine is dealing with, these types of kamikaze drones, drone warfare, is eventually going to reach the United States. It might reach it in an Operation Spiderweb type attack on the continental United States. It might reach it when it comes to its soldiers deployed overseas. It seems like the latter has come
real quick,
first.
can you describe Operation Spiderweb for those of the people who aren't aware of that?
Sure. Operation Spiderweb was when the Ukrainians got a bunch of drones, FPV drones, and they put them in shipping containers, got them on the back of a bunch of trucks, moved them into different locations across Russia outside of military bases, had the top of those trucks open up, and then the drones fled out like a swarm, destroying billions upon billions of double-digit percentage points parts of the Russian Air Force when it comes to its strategic bomber fleet, its transportation fleet, like a lot of damage. And it showed that a lot of inexpensive technology, a drone that might cost $800 to $1,000, I think Magyar said $872 is the current rate. You can do quite a lot of damage to billion-dollar equipment. And all it takes is getting them to the right place at the right time. And that's not only a concern when it comes to military infrastructure. I also have concerns about that when it comes to civilian infrastructure in major metropolitan areas in the United States.
Well, it was a beautiful operation that won a lot of respect for the Ukrainians, well-deserved, and showed that they're capable of coming up with ingenious things. Dylan, I'm curious, who's benefiting the most from the Iran war between Russia and Ukraine, in your opinion? On one hand, Russia has seen sanctions dropped and able to sell their oil at 3 times what they were selling it before, a huge windfall of cash, also seeing the United States distracted. But on the other hand, Ukraine has a new clientele for their drone program, and that seems to be a huge windfall of money and respect coming from the GCC countries. So I'm curious, from your opinion, who's coming out on top right now?
Russia. I don't think it's really close. Ukraine's making the best of a bad situation, right? Ukraine is seeing countries dealing with the same threat that they faced. Ukrainians now face, honestly, a much more advanced threat than American soldiers face right now. What they're facing in the Middle East is the Shahed 136 model. This is the original base design that the Iranians exported to Russia. And then the Russians over the last 4 years have perfected those designs into the Grand 2 models and other kamikaze models. And so the Ukrainians are dealing with better performing, better camouflage, just more effective drone models than the United States has. But the United States has still held problems dealing with these types of drone swarms and a lot of America's partners in the region. That is how Ukraine can come in and not just offer anti-drone technology with its interceptors, but it can also offer, and this is the most important part, to be honest, the integration. It's one thing to be one dude in a field looking around for where's the drone, and so you can get your drone ready. It's another thing to have the radar systems in place, the sensors in place, have the software where you can actually see all the drones coming in, you can communicate with other people. When I go to these types of air defense teams, even the ones that are just firing 100-year-old guns from the Russian Civil War on the back of a pickup truck at these Shaheds, they're still using iPads off of these systems. These systems the United States is behind on. These systems which the United States usually thrives on, Ukraine has had to perfect them under fire. And these Gulf states don't have any of that infrastructure whatsoever. That's the stuff that they're offering, that they're going to be able to get capital into their country to help their drone industry. Because the Ukrainians can produce more weapons right now. They can produce more drones right now. They don't have the capital to do it. But the Russians, on the other hand, they not only are able to export what they were exporting before at a much higher price, but they're also doing it unsanctioned for a lot of their tankers that are now at sea. So they're making a lot more money in that capacity. But the bigger issue for Ukraine is not only the money inflow, it's the interceptor threat. The United States and its allies in the Middle East have expended more air defense interceptors in about a month and a half in the Middle East than Ukraine has through the entirety of the Russian invasion of Ukraine.
But just a quick follow up. I read that Ukraine was able to get some of those Patriot batteries from the Gulf countries in exchange for their drones. Am I wrong about that?
There's the problem for me isn't even the batteries, it's the supply of the PAC-3s. It's the question of these aren't the Gulf states that produce them. It's the United States that largely produces the supply, and you might be able to get one battery or one, like I saw Spain, they gave Ukraine 5 missiles, right? But you can't number one, it's 5 missiles. And number two, they don't produce them. They buy them. Yeah. Where do they buy them from? The United States. And so the United States is ultimately going to be the deciding factor of how much fuel they get for these machines.
Well, one thing you didn't mention, Dylan, but I definitely want your opinion on, because you're kind of talking about the material interests of the respective countries, and it does seem to be a consensus among international observers that Russia is better off with this war for the reasons that you stated. But there's another one, and that is NATO. I would say at this point, NATO is close to functionally dead. I mean, no one has the confidence that the Americans who are going to come to the rescue of any country that's going to be attacked. I mean, Trump is basically threatening to get out of it at any given moment, putting aside the legal restrictions to Trump doing so. It seems that no one is in Congress willing to make him abide by the law when it comes to the use of military forces. And so, and in the sort of the start of the war, one of the big picture items in terms of, well, what would make Ukraine have a peaceful resolution is some kind of security guarantee, right? Everyone is talking about a security guarantee. Well, what kind of security guarantee under Trump is NATO anymore? Maybe there's something to build back when a Democrat takes office or a Republican who respects NATO. But talk a little bit about the geostrategic harm that's being done to Ukraine and the long-term sort of security guarantee that Ukraine would even look for after Trump has done so much damage in terms of our international standing vis-a-vis our allies in Europe specifically.
This was something that I feared more than anything else when I talked about Trump. When I talked about it during the 2024 election, leading up to the 2024 election, after 2024 election, it is his propensity to treat Article 5 and Article 4, the foundational parts of NATO, really functionally the only important parts of NATO, like it's tradable, like it's transactional, like you can turn it off and on again. But Article 4 and Article 5, which Article 4 is when you're attacked, you summon a meeting, and Article 5 is basically saying, okay, it's time to rumble when a NATO nation is attacked. This is what keeps the whole alliance together. The whole structure of it really works, not because we have to go around and fight constant wars and because our armies are so big or we spend so much money on it and we hit 5%, we hit 4%, we hit 6% or some magic number. It works because no nation would be dumb enough to go to war with an alliance with these many atomic weapons, these many militaries, with this much foreign capital behind it, right? I mean, you know, Russia is a country of about 130, 140 million people. Europe is 700 million before you even talk about the United States. It has plenty more capital than the Russians. California has a larger economy than Russia, right? But if you degrade the capacity for this defensive pact to look like you actually will act by saying things like, I don't know, maybe we won't defend those who will pay, or maybe we're going to take the sovereignty of Greenland and put that up into question. So some other adversarial state could look at that and say, well, if the United States is going to be fighting over Greenland, maybe we can make a deal with them. Maybe if I attack NATO now, Trump has a grudge and he'll do X, Y, and Z. Now, I'm not saying that's how it's going to pan out. There's a bunch of political pressures that would push Trump to probably want to respect NATO if he has an IQ point, of course, which is still that's pending. But
well, Dylan, do you think that Trump trying to invoke Article 5 to say NATO countries have to help us in the Strait of Hormuz is also a way of getting ahead of an actual attack against potential NATO countries and say, well, you didn't help us when it mattered.
It's the stupidest fucking thing in the world. It's never worked like this. This is him like introducing his own rules. It's like, I remember when I was a kid and I used to play chess. and I learned chess from my like after school teacher. And eventually I beat him. But after I beat him, he just invented a new rule that was fake on the spot to avoid me beating him. He called it like the gibber smack, and he just knocked over all my piece. And it was like, oh, I had no clue that could happen. And that's what this feels like, because when the Falklands was fought over and Argentina attacked the Falkland Islands, which was part of British territory, the United States said that's not our business. We don't have to defend Great Britain, even though British territory has been occupied, even though this is, you know, an attack clearly on a longstanding American ally. Why? Oh, because it's not part of the North Atlantic. And this is the North Atlantic Treaty Organization. So we only have to defend territory in the North Atlantic. So having our government, and you could say that's not Trump's belief, but at the end of the day, the United States is represented by the United States. It's not represented by individual figures. That's not how the world looks at it. That's not how geopolitics works. And so have the United States saying, oh, we can't fight and get involved in this just war because, you know, it's not in the North Atlantic, but you have to go along with our war that we announced in the middle of the night, and specifically to avoid opposition, with no, you know, announcement beforehand, no time to justify to your public. I mean, when we went to war in Iraq, and we got a few countries to go with us, we had months and months and months and months of buildup, of justification, of discussion. Trump just thought he could start a war in the Middle East that could have world impacting energy implications, and that everybody would just jump on because of a defensive alliance. It doesn't make any sense, but it could, in Trump's mind and in the mind of knuckle-dragging window lickers that support him, it could be a justification to say, well, look, they weren't with us, so why do we have to be with them? Even though this is also on the, you know, on the heels of him threatening NATO territory.
Link it to Ukraine, though. Now link it to Ukraine. So is Ukraine still looking for NATO membership? Obviously, are they still bought into the American project? Are they waiting Trump out? What's going on with the Ukraine? So America's over here threatening our allies, doing all this shit. Talk about Ukraine in that context.
Look, the idea of them having to just kind of keep their head down for 4 years of Trump, it didn't really feel like an option. The United States has artillery shells, 155 artillery shells that are being produced, that were expanded in production specifically to support the Ukrainians. That was part of the Ukraine aid packages, was investments in our own artillery industry, which is now not even prioritizing the Ukrainians. But we still send them a few thousand artillery shells every month. We still send them ballistic missile defense that they cannot get anywhere else in the world. We still send them attack missile supplies that, again, they cannot get anywhere else in the world. The vast majority of their intelligence assistance still comes from John Ratcliffe CIA, right? So this is all assistance that they could still give, which is why, despite all these like divides across the Atlantic, the Ukrainians have tried to be as conciliatory towards Trump's Middle East actions as possible. Not as much as people suggest. People suggest like Zelensky wants to bomb the Iranians, or he's fighting the war against Iran. The Iranians say he's at war with them. The Iranians helped launch over 50,000 kamikaze drones at their country that killed men, women, and children. The Ukrainians aren't bombing them in response. They're defending Gulf states with air defense systems. But the way that they're talking is in a way trying to be reconciliatory towards Trump, to try to keep his support as his relationship with Europe is degrading, and offering drone assistance, offering commentary that he would at least see it as not, you know, trying to block him. But I don't think it's going to be enough on itself. I think that in Trump's mind, even if Ukraine gave him everything he wants, Ukraine is a tool, is a pawn. It is a chip that he can use against the Europeans to say, you know, I can always abandon you on your biggest security issue if you don't want to go along with my new initiative, if you don't want to go along with my new trade package, if you don't want to go along with my new war. I think he doesn't really view Ukraine as a country that is an ally of the United States, which is why he moved himself from a supporter of Ukraine to more of a mediator position. All of this support that is still flowing in isn't because I think Trump fought for that support. It's because people like John Ratcliffe and Marco Rubio around him know that it's necessary for America's national security interests, and they've fought for it tooth and nail, and they've been barely able to hold on to it.
And do the Ukrainian people, the last one, give Zelensky the maneuvering room and the flexibility and the understanding to take these kind of postures, notwithstanding the insults, notwithstanding everything that's going on? How's his popularity doing? And is he able to be a Trump, in a way, appeaser with the understanding of the Ukrainian people that it's in the best interest of their country?
There's an understanding that the United States holds certain tools that no other country holds, but Ukrainians also have a very independent mindset. And after a year of fighting without any American aid, which is what's going on now at this point, everything that's being sent over is stuff that's being bought by Europe in the Pearl program. Many Ukrainians were like, "Wait, we were told, without American aid, we would collapse." And now it's been over a year of fighting, and the Russians really haven't advanced significantly since the aid has stopped. There's been problems, there's been issues, but the Ukrainians have counterbalanced in many ways. They haven't been able to make up the difference when it comes to the aid that's being provided, but they've been able to lean on other systems, right? We're talking about, like, instead of having as many men as you would protecting an area, you have like 15 men protecting a kilometer of territory, which is bizarre to think about. But that's kind of where the war is. We're just drone swarm and kind of deal with the little tiny issues here and there, the different people like infiltrating. So I think that a lot of people understand that Ukraine has certain strengths that Trump doesn't appreciate, but they also understand that Trump has something that they just need for the time being. And so for the time being, they just have to work with Trump regardless for the survival of their country. They would rather work with somebody else, but they're not the people who choose who's president of the United States. Their nation's survival's at stake. If they have to flatter the man, they have to flatter the man, even if they now call the Ukrainian children that were trafficked rehoused, even if they don't recognize what happened in Bucha anymore. They don't even talk about it. Even if the Elbridge Colbys and Pete Hegseth of the world, if they had it their way, they would just cut all the aid and book it.
Great answers, man.
I try.
Yep.
Should we get into domestic and current affairs? I'm interested in getting your take on some of the crazy shit that's happening in America, because you're not just like this Ukraine correspondent guy, though you obviously do that. And I'm sure it's hard to go back to hippy dippy roundtables. It's like the Hurt Locker when you, right? When you try to go back, you can't go back. But you definitely still keep an eye on domestic politics. So why don't we let you, like, what has been catching your eye recently is, the Trump antichrist rhetoric, the conversations about Democratic, who's in the coalition. What's been capturing your attention?
What's been capturing my attention? I've been concentrating on some like local lead issues in Maryland, which have to do with like lead poisoning. A lot of it's probably local. I think for the national issues, I'm really worried about what Trump's going to do when the midterms come around. Ultimately, is he going to reject the results of the election? They seem to be positioning Tulsi Gabbard for a propaganda campaign on the idea that, there's no other reason for them to be retrudging 2020. There's no other reason for them to be, unless they're creating literal conservative mythos. I'm not saying they're going to try something, but I do think that Trump has never accepted an election that he's lost. And so there's only two options for how it goes. I think Democrats are going to win the midterms. That's pretty clear. I think once we're winning like non-educated white voters, like non-college educated white voters, I think that, that's kind of like the siren call of a blue wave.
I don't know how much I trust that. That would be such a massive shift if that was true. I saw the same. Was it a YouGov poll?
It was a YouGov poll. YouGov poll.
It was like something like Democrats. They had the edge in the generic ballot for non-college white voters by like 2. It was like plus 2% or something like that. But I don't know. That would be a pretty seismic sea change if that was actually true.
It would, but there's
by all accounts, it's dropping.
There's a general polling shift. Trump seems to be going lower and lower in his polling. There seems to be more people that are attributing the country's problems to him than the previous administration. It matches historical trends. At this point, I think the Democrats are going to win. There's a question about how big the victory is going to be. I think it might not be as substantial as some people might say. I think that the chances of taking back the Senate are not 56% as like all of the betting odd things are putting out now. But I do think that Democrats are going to take back the House. And I think
I'll put money on it. You want to make a bet? I'll bet on Democrats in the Senate.
You'll bet Democrats on the Senate? Sure, why not?
I bet you $25.
$25?
Yeah.
Okay, I'll bet $25 as well. You just have to come collect it.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
You think I don't have little birdies everywhere? Okay. You think I don't have people in Ukraine? Come on.
I'm gonna get a SBU officer pulling me aside.
I was the #1 Call of Duty YouTuber from 2009 to 2010. And
In
you
Ukraine?
think that I don't have connections in Ukraine? Come on, it was a global brand.
Dylan, you're going to be in a trench. There's going to be artillery raining around you, and there's going to be just like a little 10-year-old Ukrainian boy sprinting up to the front lines and reaches out his hands for the $25 and then runs away. You're going to
So
know what the
a
fuck
little
just happened.
Ukrainian drummer boy.
Yes, like a 1917 type thing.
We missed one.
Listen, I feel good about the Senate. I feel really good about the Senate. I mean, like, listen, I think like if the election were to take place today, I think they would win both chambers. And do you see the situation getting any better for Republicans in the next 7 months? I don't. I don't see an off ramp for this craziness. And so, I mean, yeah, I'm very bullish.
There's no off ramp, yeah.
Well, I would just want to finish what I was saying, though. I think that there's only two options for how Trump can go. The first option is he rejects the results of the election. This is the doomsday. This is a bad idea, right? He goes out and says it was faked. This is not good. We need to do something. It was stolen. And he tries to either challenge in the courts, challenge with public. Who knows what pathway he goes forward. The elector scheme was crazy. It's not like he wouldn't sign on to some. I can't predict what strategy he's going to use because I wouldn't have predicted the elector scheme. It's impossible for me to predict exactly what scheme he would use, but he's somebody who will wiggle and he will thrash. The other option is he just blames everybody else. He says, it was JD, Jared Kushner convinced me to do this. I was the war, it was the XYZ, and he pivots blame and then just basically loots the country for the last 2 years. The latter is somehow the good option.
Well, I kind of agree with you on both. He's going to try. He already did with like the mid-decade redistricting that failed. So obviously he's not going to accept the results no matter what happens if he loses, right? I don't know if he'd blame his own team, though. He'll just blame the Democrats and mail-in voting and all that. But I mean, Guy's doing everything in his power to sabotage himself, right? I mean, we mentioned the Antichrist. I don't know if everyone's seen the image yet, but I'm definitely going to put it on screen. This is the one. I mean, like, how do you lose the Catholic vote? Hold on. Trump said today that this is actually him as a Red Cross doctor. So
he's a doctor uniform. Yes, he did. Yes, he did. He did. This is his doctor outfit. Yes.
Oh my God.
No, to be fair, the Red Cross in Ukraine is dressed like that.
Yeah.
Do they?
Well, the doctor's like he's checking his fever here. He's got the flashlight,
radiant energy in his hands. Yes.
Yeah.
I don't know if he ever did. He ever
the Red Cross bald eagles, Red Cross mechs in the sky,
and devil soldiers. And what are those? They're like demonic.
Some AI garbage up here where they like mix the Statue of Liberty with a soldier.
Yeah, bro. It's like a Mighty Morphin Power Ranger situation up there. But I don't know. Did he ever have a majority support with American Catholics? I don't know if he did.
I don't know, but this is too far. I mean, I know that he basically called for the genocide of the Iranian people and said he was going to skull fuck all of the Iranian people and all that shit, and that he has been the most corrupt and worst president of all time. But this image really, it really is bad. But I'm glad that he explained himself perfectly. That he wasn't intending to insult anyone, and this was just him in his doctor's outfit.
But going. Oh, sorry.
No. But I do want to say though, the feud with the Pope is pretty funny too.
I don't know. Going back to what Dylan said, I don't know what difference does it make if he doesn't accept the outcome of the election. Like, the president doesn't certify the results of the election, and he doesn't get to decide if the elections were valid. And so, I mean, is he going to try some procedural thing in this state or that state or what? Probably, but I just don't think that he can stop this ocean that's coming. And he certainly can't. He has no authority to just reject the election.
I don't know how much I'm fearful of Trump cooing of course, if he does something like that, everybody do your best. Get ready. I can't wait to see you all with me. But the odds are, in my view, is the damage he could do by trying adamantly, by somebody, a yes man around him, which is all he's surrounded by now, continuously fanning the flames of conspiracism or of attempts that he can make, him having nobody to tell him to turn around, and him trying something, not succeeding, but doing real damage to the republic in the process, public trust, damage in public trust of institutions, and setting up the damage that could be capitalized on by further authoritarians. I'm also worried about the fact that all of his buddies internationally, who are they? The people like Vladimir Putin, Viktor Orban, people who got connections in the world of how do you manipulate an election. I'm not saying that he will do that. I am saying if he could get away with it, he would.
I agree with that. I certainly agree with the idea that if he could get away with it, he would. But I guess I'm just trying to push back against. I think there's a healthy amount of vigilance to have. But honestly, at this point, with the trajectory he's on, if he really tried to really wild out, I mean, I think that would just make him even less popular. He would go from the mid 30s to the low 20s doing something like that. So I don't think he has the competence or the support that he would need to get anywhere close to being able to steal the midterms.
I just see if it could happen in South Korea of all places. It's very easy for me to see Trump doing something stupider than that.
You mean him trying to declare martial law or something like that?
Or seize voting machines under ICE authorities, declare that the DHS didn't get the requisite lists that it needed from the various different states pursuant to his executive order.
You don't think the courts would step in and stop that?
No, I think he would be unsuccessful. I want to be clear with you. And I don't hear Dylan to be saying that it's likely that he'll succeed, but I think that he will try something. I'm not optimistic that he will succeed. I agree with you, Hutch. Well, I just think he will try something.
I mean, what happened in Korea, I would say didn't do a lot of damage, but it still did some damage. It did damage to public trust, even though it was all over within a couple of hours. It did damage to, I think, the institutions by, I think it did reinforce them in other ways, but it did damage to the fact that this was normalized in some way through his actions, hopefully deterred through there being consequence. My fear is that whatever Trump does, nobody has the balls to put him in a cell. Is if he was to try something like this, the first thought in an American's mind back from the Civil War to now is going to be reconciliation. It's going to be unity. It's going to be the decisions made to not take the necessary steps that Merrick Garland should have, right? And so I am not necessarily saying Trump's going to succeed in overthrowing the government. I am saying that he could do further damage on the way down that could other people could capitalize on down the line.
That segues nicely into another bit of news this week. There was some reporting, I can't remember out of which outlet, that said that something that I just assumed that we all assumed, which is that he's been telling people, I guess, this whole second presidency that he's going to pardon anyone who came even within 100 feet of the White House as soon as he leaves office. Yeah. So we've been talking about that a bunch, about speculating that he would do it. It's just the least shocking news you could possibly imagine.
A genuine question. The guy in Korea, he's going to prison, right? That's the end result of it. He tried to overthrow the government. You go to prison. That's how it works, right? That's how it should work. Actually, maybe it should go a little further, but you know what? TOS. But in the United States, if anyone, Trump, Biden, anyone attempted to do something similar, but especially, I would like to think that there'd be consequence, but Trump has created such a feeling of servitude and submission in his own party. As long as he has a majority, I don't think that they would do anything. And even if he lost the majority, I think that there'd be a lot of people that just default to reconciliation.
Well,
not while he's in office. Yeah, no.
In the case of Korea, that was the legislature that stepped in, and that was the courts that upheld their decision, and they had a legal, lawful mechanism to do what they did. It's not like they just decided, well, we need to just throw this person in prison and just come up with any kind of means to do it. They had a means to do it.
That's the problem here, though, that we don't have that.
No, I agree. Yeah, we've been talking about those kind of reforms for weeks here. Yeah.
Yeah, 100% on that. The really with the pardon shenanigans that I'm expecting, And again, I wouldn't put it past them to do a little Trump Vance two-step where Trump resigns 10 hours before he has to go to, after his term ends, and Vance pardons him too. I think that the avenues for criminal indictment are going to be few, if any, especially with the added wonderfulness of the Supreme Court's immunity doctrine, which is bullshit. And I think the non-trivial arguments that, given the theory of the immunity decision, that it might extend even further than just the president. I mean, I think that's something that we have to contend with, is the Supreme Court possibly doing that. And I think the only avenues of justice we're going to have are going to necessitate some kind of structural reform, starting with the judiciary and state prosecutions. States need to step up. I'm glad to see Minnesota. I think that there was a report by Kyle Griffin, he's a legal reporter, stating that Minnesota is looking into one case, one ICE detention as a criminal kidnapping case, that there's some reporting about that. That needs to happen more. And I've even heard some ideas potentially of, extraditing Trump to stand trial in other countries. I would be in favor of that to the extent that there are crimes implicated there. And I think that there are. And then finally, I've had an idea about enforcing Section 3 for a while. I'll write about it, but there are ways to do it. We're going to have to get creative, but accountability is necessary. I agree with Dylan on that.
Breaking news, Tony Gonzalez, the Republican out of Texas who had that scandal with the text messages, resigned. It announces that he's going to resign tomorrow.
Yeah, that came out a little bit ago. That's Eric Swalwell, too.
Yeah.
That's the big one right there.
Yeah, I knew he was fucked when he got the kiss of death from Gallego and Schiff. As soon as I saw those tweets, I was like, "Oh, he's fucking done." This guy. There was a video of him like making out with a sex worker, I think, and it was posted by Martin Shkreli. Did you guys see that? Is that right?
Yeah.
Is that not allowed?
Well, it came out. I think that was like the thing that was the straw that broke the camel's back, as it were.
Our president fucked a porn star, right? We can kiss some sex workers. Why not?
In my head, it's like he's kissing a sex worker, pulling up 6. Oh, Martin Shkreli's in the room, pulling down 12.
God, yeah, I understand the logic there. That makes sense. Yeah.
I think we all agree there's a lot less tolerance for scandal among Democrats. And that,
unless your name is Plattner, Graham Plattner, he's literally like the only one. He's like a fucking unicorn. Everybody else gets like shoved out of the party, but for some reason, like he is quite resilient.
I gotta ask in this room because I feel like I'm separated from most of the Twitch poll space now, because I kind of I not separated completely, but I'm kind of like in this in this bubble away from it. So I like coming back in
while we're all jerking it off online. We get it, Dylan.
To be clear, I jerk off over here too. But what's important, I just want to know: do you guys like Private Totenkopf? Like, what's the position here?
I've endorsed him, and I don't like him. I think that I don't trust him. I think that he is just telling people a lot of stuff they want to hear. But in my view, he is so much more likely to win, significantly more likely to win than Janet Mills, that that's just the way the cookie crumbles.
Yeah, he's a bandwagon fan.
I'm a Janet Mills stan, dude. I'm not afraid to say it. I think she's got the juice. I think she's ready to start a new career at 78 years old, and I'm excited to see what she does in her first term. But no, I think she's won statewide. She's a well-known person. There's a lot of risk with Plattner. I said it last time. People don't want another Fetterman, and I think there's a lot of concern that he could turn out to be like Fetterman.
Yeah, I'm hesitant of Plattner. I like some of his more progressive policies, but just like shown too many like character flaws for me to be like, yeah, I trust this person in office. And Mills, people act like Mills is some like ancient evil, and you look at her record and it's like, this is pretty damn good. Like I'd totally.
She's canceling debates.
Yeah,
she would be like one of the oldest senators. Yeah. And she's polling like 40 points below. So here's the problem, right? Like I understand all the hesitancy with Plattner. Trust me, I do get it. And maybe he'll prove us wrong, including myself, in that I don't trust him, and people I think have good reason not to trust aspects of him. But we are in a moment in which people are tired of the old guard Democrat, and that includes both biologically old, but also the old guard as viewed in the establishment. The overall approval rating among Democrats for their leaders in Congress is net negative, at least one poll that I saw recently. And that's not to say that Democrats aren't obviously way better, but that is a reflection of internal Democratic angst at the leadership of the party. And it's not just lefties, tankies, socialists, whatever you want to say it. These are rank and file Democrats. And so Mills, I think, is picking the worst moment. And she has not looked like she's going to catch up to him in the polls in the last 3 months.
I've taken a lot of heat on this podcast because I've taken a very maximalist, blue no matter who position. I'll give honest answers to insane thought experiments like, would you vote for Hitler or, Hassan Piker? This is like a perfect opportunity for me to demonstrate that, because like, I don't like Plattner. I am worried about him like on a debate stage with Susan Collins, who's like a very capable politician. But I view him as inevitable. I can see the numbers just like everybody else. And Mills she's just only gone down. And he started with a pretty decent lead on her. So I just view him as inevitable. And as such, I have no problems with Grant Plattner. I've always liked him. I'm not concerned at all.
No problems.
Not a single one.
And
not a single problem you've ever had with Grant Plattner.
He has my earnest and sincere endorsement, and I would encourage anybody who lives in Maine to vote for him too.
Okay.
And listen, Burns, can I just say one thing before you get in? I do want you in, because you guys dealt with a lot of this bullshit in the Ukrainian funding stuff with Azov Battalion and all this stuff. And I'm sure that there are some stuff. Why don't you talk about that?
That's the first thing I was going to say. It's fascinating to watch all of the people who said we can't support Ukraine because of Azov now come out and say that, a Blackwater mercenary who wrote on Reddit that if he could fight in any war in America's history, he'd like to go kill the Native Americans who fucking like yes.
He didn't say it exactly like that. He
said he wanted to fight. He said he wanted to fight. Yeah, he said he wanted to fight in the Indian Wars, not one conflict. He said correct. The Indian Wars, which, by the way, has an S at the end of it. I just want to throw that out there. Okay, so I would say that person with a SS tattoo on his chest, and I still don't accept anybody who tells me, oh, he had no clue what that was. He's on Reddit debating whether or not soldiers can have those types of tattoos. He knows what the fucking tattoo is, right? I see all that, and then I see his biggest advocates in some circles are many of the same people who were scoffing at the idea of supporting Ukraine because of the Azov Battalion and their symbology and their
but Burns,
history.
I'm consistent. I wanted to support Ukraine, and I wanted to support all the fight against Russia, and I'm willing to to do the lesser evil here when it comes to Susan Collins. So yeah, I understand the critique, and you know what, you're right.
No, it's not. It's not a critique.
Who want to throw Ukraine under the bus.
It's not a critique. I just find it funny. It's not. I just find it funny. That's it.
Well, Pisco, would you say maybe when he said he wants to fight in the Native American wars, like he was just showing that he probably have the highest survival rate because they didn't have guns, right? So he was just saying like
they had guns.
Well, not as many. Like they had a technological disadvantage, and he was just like, well, I'll pick the one where I'm probably going to live.
Oh, you mean
probably had nothing to do.
No, I think that. Listen, I don't get the impression that the overwhelming message of his tweets, like he definitely has some insane tweets there, that he is this actual crypto fascist. If you observe all the messages, you would expect to see like more fucked up shit there. And I don't think that they're just because like I would choose to fight in this war, that war. It could be a particular historical interest. I'm not trying to sweep either. I don't trust this motherfucker, so maybe he is, but.
I take his transition to be sincere. Like, I do think that there was a point where he got radicalized in the other direction. And I do think he's like a genuine like leftist now. It's just, I don't think he like owns the reality of the way that he used to be. I think he's,
that was my main problem at the time. I remember it was not that like I don't believe people could change. It's just like him quickly getting the cover up tattoo and saying I didn't know what it was. I just took it to be so like if he said, well, there's a long history of America taking the symbology of fighting their enemies, and it was within that tradition. And he actually went through his literal Reddit discussions of like the type of stuff. Why do we call it the Tomahawk missile? And he could go and he could have said that. And that would have been more earnest, but it also would have made it look like maybe he was splitting hairs. And so it's a much easier to just say, I had no clue what it was. And he's just being a politician. And so should I hold it against him that he's being a politician and he's doing what the politicians do in order to cover for this terrible tattoo that he has? I don't know. But at the end of the day, Janet Mills isn't winning. If she's not accepting debates, then get her out of here. I don't know. Like if you're 78 years old and you want to run against Grant Plattner, your argument's pretty solid. He has a Nazi tattoo. I don't. Okay, it's a pretty good argument. And considering the defense he's saying, well, a lot of soldiers had stuff like that. It's not going to play well on the national stage, right? Even if part of it's true.
I think you're being a little unfair to Janet Mills here, Dylan. She is won statewide, ran the whole state. She is Chuck Schumer's top pick. He's had a good record recruiting people. He's the same person who recruited Patola and he recruited Roy Cooper. You know, he's
Jared Brown.
good people.
No, but just look at the numbers though. Just look at the numbers.
But the numbers you're talking about are statewide polls, which are garbage. These are the same polls that tell us Democrats have a 17% approval rating, and we're winning by double digits. And 20%.
I mean, do you think Mills is going to overperform by 30 points? And maybe she will. Maybe she will. I'm not confident about that, but I'm also not confident that she will be the strongest candidate to beat Susan Collins. Notwithstanding, yeah, she won statewide, but do you trust that her favorables are like
on paper, she is the best person to beat Susan Collins. I don't understand. It's like you're holding her age against her and then she doesn't excite you or something.
No, polling. We're citing polling.
Resume. I couldn't pick a better person in the state of Maine to run for Senate against Susan Collins than Janet Mills.
That is I can't.
On paper.
Really? Just because she's won statewide?
First woman to win governorship in Maine. I mean, these are stellar performances that she's pulled off.
Well, Ira, I'm curious, you draw the connection to like the Democrat polls, and I don't think those polls are inaccurate. The difference is when you look at people's unhappiness with the Trump admin, it obviously is going to outweigh their, resentment for the Democratic Party, and individual candidates can overcome that. But overall, those polls are based on like, does the Democratic Party have a platform that I support? And there's still not that cohesion. I think there's individual races, and that's why we're kicking ass. And the president is doing everything in his power to make sure we're going to win. We're going to kick ass in the midterms, but I don't think it's inaccurate to show the low polling for the party in general, as opposed to.
And where is she? I haven't seen her like big, video, social media postings. Where does she stand on the war? Where does she stand on Israel? Where does she stand on the Trump administration and the corruption? Like, if you can't succeed at messaging, which is now, I'm sorry, this is gonna, for some like purists out there, this is gonna like break their heart. That's half the job now. Half the job now is marketing yourself and your wins. Okay, so that is the job now. Where is Janet Mills on these issues? I've seen Graham Plattner talk about the war. I've seen Graham Plattner be more in line with Democrats on Israel, which is, by the way, where I think we need to go as a party. And so, yeah, I just like,
she's just
the
not,
job that she's doing campaigning is awful. It's horrible. It's horrific.
She's just not very online. Like, you go to her Twitter feed and they don't post very much. Well, if you go to her like personal Twitter feed, it's a little bit more, but she's I'd be shocked if she was the one posting any of these. I get the sense that she's not really online at all. So it kind of makes sense that we wouldn't hear much from her. I assume the most of the advertising and all that is going to be in the form of like mailers and advertisements in the state of Maine. But yeah, she's not exactly a candidate that's going to.
Is she doing events? Is she doing like where is the like?
I mean, I'm looking at her feed right now, and she is doing events. It's just like these are like low profile, like local events in Maine. She's doing like the traditional old school politician stuff. So she is.
Okay, you know what? I'm gonna if I'm not following her, maybe that's on me. I'm following her Twitter account. And maybe that's because there's this like, I don't know, people are enamored by Plattner's. I think they're kind of pedestrian sometimes, the speeches and shit. But yeah, no, I followed both of her accounts. Let's see what she's up to. And maybe if she has
with the blue check mark, not the gray one, the blue one, she's out there on the road doing events and stuff. It looks like.
Look, I have every reason in the world to see a candidate with those tattoos and say it'd probably be good for the party if we didn't have to hear this every month, right? Because we're gonna hear it every month. We're gonna say like, you guys elected this racist. It's like, oh yeah, we're gonna hear it if he becomes senator. We have to deal with that now, right? As a party. But if she's not even willing to debate the guy, I mean, what she goes up there, says Nazi tattoo, something like anything. She can go up there, give her positions, do something. But if she won't debate him at the same time that she has a perception that she's older and rolling in kind of on the downspin, and she's not really of the new ilk that the Democratic Party wants, and that she's part of that establishment. She's recruited by Chuck Schumer, an unpopular Chuck Schumer, mind you. Even if he has a good strategic mind about this, he's still very unpopular. It just, at what point do I say, like, you've kind of seceded the right to kind of hold the office if you're not willing to have these public discussions in the pressure cooker that modern politics is? If Biden said, I'm not going to debate Trump, that wouldn't be a better answer to him having that debate and looking like he did. It would be an indication that he's kind of seceded the right to run to office.
It looks like she's like collateral damage in the current kind of intra-party vitriol that's going on right now within the Democratic Party. Because you go to her Twitter account, and it's like these really kind of anodyne, kind of normal politician tweets, but they're getting like a ton of replies compared to the likes. And, you know, when you look at her track record as Maine, I'm not an expert, but when I looked into her, she had some progressive bona fides, some centristy bona fides. She's kind of like on the spectrum in between those two positions. By all accounts, a very competent governor. And yet, you know, there's people in the Democratic base are just like ripping her to shreds in her, you know, Twitter replies, because the party is just moving away from, like, violently moving away from old politicians. And to Pisco's point, like, people that represent the old guard in the party. There's just a lot of.
I totally agree with that, Hutch, and I don't think it's so much ideological. I mean, there certainly is some there. I think that a lot of that is foreign policy, but a lot of it is populist rhetoric. A lot of that is who you are and what you look like and what you seem like. Because you see people who are more centrist. I mean, think about someone like John Ossoff. He has, yes, I think that he is like a liberal for sure, 100%, but he has a more mixed voting record. I mean, he's not this like out there socialist type, but he inspires even among the young people excitement, and that maybe he could be a national leader too, maybe even a presidential leader. And he's in a swing state, right? In a very competitive swing state that we might say in a normal year leans Republican. Notwithstanding that, he's not getting eviscerated like Mills. He is performing where he needs to be in terms of rhetoric. And so, yeah, you are able to, as a centrist, as a moderate, chart the lane of excitement and of counter to the old guard. But you can't do it the way Mills is doing it, with being very offline and being placid.
Wait, Pisco, have you not seen the video of her totally being young and cool? Have you guys seen this? I disagree.
Shotsky.
Hell yeah.
You know I got to give a speech later on.
Have you done this before? No. This takes a little cadence.
I take the fifth.
No time level, but we're on three.
She whipping shots right now?
Count to three, Bruce, when I say count.
Is this Orno?
Count. This is fucking great, you know?
2, 3.
This is not AI, is what it is.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, no.
You got it. Still got it.
She's too old. I beg to differ.
Can I switch teams?
Still college age.
I mean, I see that, and I'm sorry. I mean, I thought that was kind of charming.
that won me over,
but, you know,
actually.
It's charming to us because we're like, yeah, okay, it's charming to us, but like, there's a gap. That's not. I don't think it's meeting the moment.
Also,
Okay,
when
I
we gotta
looked
just
up-
throw out there, when we say low profile events, let's be clear. I've seen some of these low profile events. Talking to 20 people in a bingo hall is not going to have the same momentum impact that talking to 500 to 1,000 people in a packed school gymnasium is, which is what I see a lot more of Grand Platinum events.
Okay. So I looked up why she didn't attend or accept debates, and it turns out that she has committed to 3 televised debates and 2 forums. These were additional debates being held by, it looks like, a tribal group, and so she said she had a scheduling conflict. Say what you will, but you're acting like she's refusing to debate. She's committed to 3 televised debates.
I actually think that I think she's gonna fucking tear him to shreds. It'll be interesting because he's just totally untested in that kind of a setting. Like, nobody's ever seen it. Has he ever done a political debate? Like, I don't know. We'll see.
Why did Plattner want to do the tribal debate so bad? Do you think that's at all related to the war?
Oh dear.
Well, I guess there's some sort of tribal sovereignty issue in Maine, and maybe she's not on the right side of that. I have no idea, but
she's missing
I'm
the
just saying,
perfect opportunity
the way
to be able
Pisco
to
framed it, and I'm here to fight with Pisco today. Okay, I love him. He's my boy, but I'm just saying, you're acting like she refuses to debate at all, and here she's committed to 3 televised debates, and they're trying to egg her into some reason. You know, like, what's the big deal here?
I thought that there were I thought there were a couple of scheduled debates that she backed out of. That's what I thought. And maybe I'm wrong about that. Maybe you're fact checking me. I will, while we're here, look into it and see if I believe fake news or something. And if I did, I'll own up to it.
Well, boys,
I will throw out, wait, if it was a tribal debate, you would think that would be the exact debate she would want. If there's any environment where she could bring up his Indian war comments, I don't know.
Yeah,
if she had the trigger, if she had the momentum, she would go out there and she would start with a land acknowledgement and then go from there.
Well, you know who's a woman Democrat who is not old? is Alyssa Slotkin. And she made a little chatter this last week by saying she was considering a run for president. And that got some mixed reviews online. She said she's thinking about it. And I think she's serious. What do you guys think about that?
I like it. I think the more the merrier. The bigger news to me was Kamala saying it and people groaning. I say, what are you talking about? Like, the more the merrier. Let's, put all of our hitters in there, and may the best man or woman win. But do you think Alyssa Slotkin is a negative in any way?
Here's what I know about Alyssa Slotkin, okay? She started her career so first of all, she went to graduate school, was recruited to work for the CIA out of graduate school, then worked for the State Department for, I think, like 6 or 7 or 8 years, then started her political career by flipping a seat in Michigan that had been Republican since the 90s, successfully defending her seat, even after redistricting gave her a tough race, and then went on to win a Senate seat. She's literally undefeated. She's undefeated in competitive races in a swing state. And so I think anyone like dismissing her ability, like for her potential to become president one day, I think are underestimating her. I'm not saying she's a lock. I'm not saying she's a favorite, or even, like I would even put her in like the top 5 as of right now, but I wouldn't dismiss her. She is very capable as a politician.
I don't.
Wait, because there's one thing. Sorry, I want to close the loop on the Mills thing. I'm so sorry. So I just looked some shit up. So I will say this is definitely different than how I presented it in terms of dropping out, because she never committed to it. What I will say though is she should be taking those events. I agree that that's not how I represented it, but I will say if you're behind the polls, like 30, 20 points, those events are where you can interact with other candidates. You should be taking those events. What else should take priority there? And in my opinion, maybe there's some official governor duty, but I think at this stage, you should be taking those events if possible. But I will say, Ira, to your point, it's not that she dropped out of those debates. She is not participating in them. She never agreed to participate in them.
That's fair.
Sorry.
But again,
you were talking about Slotkin.
She is committed to debate, so I just think, because it's not you. I'm not accusing you of this, but I've seen other people being like, she refuses to debate. It's like, well, now hold on a second now, So that's all I'm saying. Not to
fair play.
Hutch, what I was going to say about Slotkin is, regardless of what you think of her politics, watching her under fire on breaking points, I thought that was a very dismal performance from her.
Bro,
yeah,
I think this is a Rorschach test. I think you should watch it again and just go into it with be open to a different interpretation, because I actually rewatched that. I watched it at the time and I had the same reaction that I did the last time I watched it, which is a few days ago, just to remember what that was about. I think in that moment, she is a adult who feels a bit of contempt and frustration that she has to talk to children. That's my thing.
That's why I said, regardless of your politics, I just think optically it still looked bad. I don't think she handled that well if you agree with her. I don't think she handled it well if you disagree with her. I think that is not if you're going to be under fire or running for president. I think it's really just not a good look if that's how you handle adversary. And if you compare that to I don't know, Bill Clinton on Fox News, I just don't think she had good responses. And I agree. I really don't like Crystal Ball and Saga and on a lot of issues. So I'm not saying this as a Crystal Ball breaking points fan. So
I could not disagree more. I felt like she was remarkably composed. There was really only one moment where she let the guard down, literally for a half second, where she gave Crystal kind of a sideways glance, literally a sideways glance. But they were pressing her and asking her questions, and she was answering their questions. And then basically every time she started to answer their questions, they would cut her off, not address what she had just said, and then deflect to some other question. And some of the questions that they were asking her, I'm sorry, were fucking ridiculous. This gotcha question that Crystal asked, where she said, you support, providing Iron Dome to Israel. Why wouldn't you also support giving it to Iran and Russia to help protect their civilians? As if there's not 5 immediate non-starters for why we would never give Iran and Russia the Iron Dome.
But you're attacking.
Is the question unfair? Wait, is the question unfair, or is you just disagree with?
The question is fucking
with her
ridiculous.
answer?
The
Wait,
question
in
itself-
virtue of what is it ridiculous?
You tell me, Pisco. Can you think
Well,
of any
I
reason
haven't-
why we wouldn't give Iran and Russia the Iron Dome?
100%. But are you just saying that the question is unfair because it's obvious what the answer is, and so you shouldn't ask?
I didn't say.
Oh,
I said it's.
I thought you said it was unfair.
question. I said it's a silly question. It's
Yeah,
a
but Hutch-
really, really, really profoundly silly
The way
question.
she answered the silly question was not nearly so optically good as she could have. Like it looked like she's on the back foot where the answer should be a simple like, "Hey, we have
No,
allies and we have
I just-
adversaries." And I'm just saying I'm not so
I'm
confident
sorry.
that she could perform well on a presidential.
So is that a layup question then, Hutch? If it's so obvious?
It's a layup if you're not a politician and you don't need to worry about being composed, because you would just look at Crystal with a silly face and be like, what the fuck are you talking about? But she had to like pause, compose herself, and then explain really basic concepts like adversaries versus allies. Like we would never in a million years.
I think Crystal's question is sort of questioning that Israel should be an ally of America as it's currently operating.
I get that point, but there's a better way to do that than, and they eventually did get to that question and they started to kind of dive into what that is. But they're asking questions like, what do we get out of a relationship with Israel? Which is like, I mean, they cover geopolitics for a living. They should understand like you can have a moral opposition to our like being allied with Israel. I'm fine with questioning.
Wait, so
that.
what's wrong with the question then? If it's like easy to answer and it's like, well, Israel's our ally and they should be our ally. What's wrong? Why is that like a gotcha question? Why is the question wrong if there's just a very easy answer to it? Is it because Democrats shouldn't be questioned on Israel?
Pisco, no, that's not what I'm saying. You can question her on Israel, but when you ask, why would you, like if it's about protecting civilians, why not give it to Iran? Well, like if this is a highly top secret classified weapon system and we give it to Iran, they could theoretically repurpose it and make it redundant. It's like that is just like immediately that's where your mind should go.
But
and
like,
then the
why
Iron
shouldn't
Dome doesn't work for anyone? So like, why would we ever consider like if you want to make the point that we should question our relationship with Israel, that's fine. But
I'm just saying like, why is it a gotcha question if it's like a very, very simple, easy answer and obvious? Like what's wrong with the question?
I don't think it was simple or obvious to like Crystal. I think she legitimately thought that it was a slam dunk gotcha question that Slotkin couldn't like figure her way out of. But Slotkin like literally paused, composed herself and said, we have allies, we have adversaries, and we have strategic partners. And she had to like explain this dynamic, which is just really, this is like really basic level geopolitical stuff.
Well, if it's really basic, why is it a problem? Like if someone asks me a really basic question, like look at Pete Buttigieg, right? Pete Buttigieg gets a really basic fucking question about inflation or is like with this guy on this, whatever. I don't even know what news I think it was. And he makes a really simple set of like parameters, make the other guy look like a fucking idiot. I'm just like asking like, why is that a problem? If it's such a loaded question or a question that's like requires just a basic distillation of shit, why can't she use it to stunt on Crystal?
Yeah, and Hutch, really quick, because I want to give an example of what he's talking about. Like, have you seen like Bernie Sanders on like Sacha Baron Cohen's like Who Is America?
It's been a while. It's been a while. That show is crazy.
Yeah, he's playing this like obese like Southern dipshit, and he's like, why don't we put the 99% and put them in the 1%? And Bernie's like, but that's not how math works. Like, he doesn't pause. Like optically, this looks not bad for Bernie. Like he tries to make Bernie look stupid, and Bernie's like, you're like, essentially you're fucking stupid without saying it. And Slotkin, I think, tried to do that. But like what I'm saying is rhetorically and optically, I don't think her answer looked good, even if she had the right idea. And that's
I think you're falling victim to this. Sorry, you haven't spoken in a while, Dylan.
No, it's I just wanted to say that personally, I want both teams to lose. So like I think that number one, going on breaking points is kind of like a Guantanamo Bay torture tactic, like that you can use against anyone. And so seeing our political class have to deal with that program, I mean, watching them interview Kat was like watching like two monkeys trying to like build a car. It was an impossible, it was just complete fucking mess. I can't watch breaking points with not wanting.
This is Kat Abou-Gazella out of Illinois who ran for the 9th district, right?
Yeah, out of Illinois. Just as like the questions they asked, or when I hear like Crystal just make shit up about wars. Like it's like she's just like winging it. Like when we gave Ukraine all the jets, we never gave Ukraine jets. That's why they invaded Kurd. Just like random stuff. So I don't like them, but also I do want the political class to be put in front of bad shows and bad programs to deal with bad questions. If you're going to run for president of the United States, you're going to be in a room eventually where you're going to have some Fox News knuckle dragger come in and say like, if you support women, why don't you want to deport the migrant rapists? Like you're gonna get that type of stuff. And so I do think
my
100%.
My argument is that she did. She answered the question just fine. Like she didn't lose her shit. She didn't get triggered. She wasn't.
So what's the
treating
problem?
it. She wasn't treating it like Pisco. What are you doing with me right now? Do you agree that that was a stupid question or not?
I'm not sure. Wait. It's a stupid question. If she's trying to get at,
ask why why we don't give Iran the Iron Dome.
The reason why I don't think it's a stupid question, I'm going to explain why, is because it's clear that what she's really getting at is questioning the notion that Iran is an ally and that they should be treated as an enemy. And so I don't really feel like there could be like a very easy, what did I say? Iran, but Israel. My bad. Israel.
Actually,
so that's what the question is getting at.
Wait, Pisco, I think you're also missing a point here, which is this is in the context of AOC saying we need to sanction Israel, but voting yes on Iron Dome funding because she says, hey, this is strictly defensive.
She didn't know. She didn't vote yes.
Well,
she
voted or abstained or whatever. The point is she's making a distinction here between the Iron Dome and every other weapons funding. And so it's like, hey, if you're making a distinction, or if some people on the left make this distinction because they say this is going to prevent civilian deaths and this isn't going to be used to kill anyone, then why not send this as humanitarian aid to other countries that are getting bombed? That's where they're getting at. And I understand
now there could be responses to that. No. I absolutely understand that. And you can have a bunch of reasons why the answer to it should be clear. But that doesn't mean that the question itself is stupid if you're just trying to elicit, well, it's not enough to say something's defensive, right? There are other factors to consider, such as whether it's in America's strategic interest to be allied with such a country. And that will certainly I am, for example, in favor of cutting off all funding for Israel at this point, given how they're conducting themselves in this Iran war, to say nothing of Gaza. No. And so I don't think it's like it's so bad faith of a question. I think if it's a stupid question, she should be able to answer. You said that she answered it fine. What's the problem?
The problem, I think, is that I think what's happening right now is the Democratic Party, like the politicians, the actual elected politicians, they all saw the same kind of like postmortems of 2024. They all saw a resounding assessment that they ignored the alternative media space. And obviously, like we're seeing a ton more Democrats go into these spaces. But what's happening is I think that their staffers are scheduling them for interviews with people, and they're just now finding out just how rabidly like anti-democratic party a lot of these spaces are. And so now it's creating these awkward situations like what you had with Breaking Points and Slotkin. The problem is that she was going for like this gotcha question. I mean, there was like a couple other parts in the interview where she basically asked her like, how do you sleep at night? Like, how do you sleep at night with like a clear conscience? Or like she said at one point, you said, you care about like human rights, or you say you care about human rights. I mean, it was like she was skewering her. And then just today or yesterday on Breaking Points, they posted a video where they were reacting to Alyssa Slotkin having a town hall. And then somebody asked her like, hey, so you took $4.2 million from the pro-Israel lobby. Like, what do you have to say about that? That number came from AIPAC Tracker. And I don't know if you guys heard about all that controversy. Did you guys hear about that?
Yeah, like their methodology seems like totally fucked.
Their methodology is crazy. Like if it's an individual donor who at any point has donated to a pro-Israel lobby, they were counting that in AIPAC Tracker, and they were not applying that same standard to
consistently across.
So it is insane. And Crystal Ball was like promoting this kind of attack on Slotkin on her program. Like, to me, that
kind of attack, or AIPAC Tracker specifically, because I did see Ryan Grimm question the methodology of
But she was legitimizing the question, and she was saying, well, she needs to just have better answers for these like legit questions. It wasn't a legit question.
Wait. In what sense was it not a legit question? I'm asking you, why is it not legit?
I don't know if you. All right, sorry, I'm going to take a breath because I'm losing composure a little bit.
Hush, tell me if I'm wrong, but what you're saying is like this is clearly like Crystal and Sagar coming in with this like very anti-democratic party messaging Israel-Palestine question that was like in what would otherwise be probably not like a super adversarial environment. Like, Pete's going on with a Republican and he's expecting some sort of attacks, but like they're like all of a sudden like, hey, bam, here's like a weird framing of this specific issue, and why don't you have a perfect answer for this right away? It's like I don't know if you want to call it clip farming.
Well, then they got the
but
wrong
just
read
trying
on
to take
breaking
down-
points then, right? Like if they want to get a hand job, they come on Live and Learn. But if they want to have the fucking reporter ask them a question,
Hell
they
yeah.
go on breaking points.
Martin Bailey.
No, wait.
Nobody's
Okay, I didn't know I was getting that later. Happy to hear it.
Pisco, I was asking if that was Hutch's position. Hutch, is that
my
kind
bad.
of what you're getting at, or?
Nobody's asking anybody to give politicians hand jobs, but maybe don't like legitimize questions where the underlying premise is entirely false and malicious.
So I'm
Maybe
not
don't
getting
do
that
that.
hand job later.
Maybe don't do that. That's what she did. That's what Crystal Ball did.
When
She
you give us the
legit.
$25, we're meeting you on the front
I'll take a
line.
hand job.
We're gonna
hand
lube
job.
up that trench, all right?
I'm a big like hand jobs are underrated guy.
Wait, we haven't talked about Victor Orban.
Oh, wait, yeah.
That's
can I
huge,
just
and
throw-
Dylan is here.
Sure, I talk about Orban. I also have, I did have a few things I didn't want to talk to you guys specifically about that's in the news, but I wanted to say just quickly before we move off this topic, people don't like Democrats. People hate Democrats right now. People hate Democrats more than Republicans. That's what the polling shows, right? It might not, even Republicans in power, that's currently what the polling shows, that more people are dissatisfied with Democrats, but they still might vote for them in the next election, right? If that's the public perception, whether or not Crystal Ball and Ryan Grimm or any of these people were particularly fair in one or two interviews, you're going to meet hostility in the majority of the country because that's how the majority of the country feels towards the Democratic Party. It might be different.
You're
It might be different.
sanitizing what you did though. You're saying
I'm not saying
Let him finish. Let him finish.
No, I'm
I'm not saying
that's
wait,
right.
wait, wait. Let me be clear. Let me make my position on Crystal Ball perfectly clear. When Crystal Ball talks, the country is worse off. That is my official position on Crystal Ball. I really don't. Now, of course, it's because I care about a certain issue and I see her speak so ignorantly on it. I assume that's how she speaks on other topics. I can't truly know because I'm not an expert on all these other topics. But when I see her speak about Ukraine, she is as less knowledgeable as I can imagine. But at the end of the day, a lot of people are not knowledgeable in Ukraine. A lot of people are not knowledgeable on all sorts of topics. And the Democrats have this negative perception. If you want to be president of the United States, you have to learn to go into rooms where everybody hates you and you somehow make progress, where people will ask unfair questions of you and you will actually get something beneficial out of it. And so whether or not this question was good, I think that this is a good... Candidates should have to have their nose broken before they run for president of the United States, politically, of course. And in some
100%.
cases, physically, but mostly politically, of course.
And we see that we see the consequence. That's a great image. You should pull it up. So by
Hutch
Hutch.
asking me to share this.
Yeah, this is
That's
very
literally
Hutch.
that's the elected.
Wait, click into it so people can see it.
Wait, can you
Read it.
That's Dem base right now.
Yeah, it's he has a shirt that says "Vote blue no matter who." But I hate Democrats, but I would never, ever, 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 never miss a special election. I promise.
Listen,
Fucking
I'll take a party that has a lot of like dislikes leadership, but just like votes in every special election. Listen, I'll take that. It's not sustainable for the long run, but you know, I'd rather be.
What do you think about Dylan's point though about reps? Because I thought that was an issue for both Biden and for Kamala, and maybe Biden it's because of his age. Because honestly, Biden was really good, although he made a lot of like obviously like slip ups, and he was known for gaffing and stuff. But when he was on it, like he was pretty good in some contested settings. If you watch him in the VP debate with Paul Ryan, I thought he was incredibly good in those hostile environments. Pete gets reps, man. He gets reps on these shows. And so like, what's wrong with the reps argument from D Burns?
No, so the fact that she is like doing a more aggressive media schedule, the fact that she's now using populist rhetoric, I don't know if you guys have seen, she's talking about the system being rigged and, you know, like she's definitely like, I don't know. I feel like she's definitely giving out feelers that she's going to run, and she's a serious person. So I would take that seriously in terms of like her actually running. I'm not saying her chances, but my point that I was making is that she did handle that question well. I think Soypel fell victim to, you know,
I'm a victim.
So what's the issue if she handled it well? Then what's the problem? She handled it well then.
All due respect to Soypel, I think you fell victim to the idea of like Crystal was like so self-assured throughout that entire interview. And when I listened to the substance of like what Crystal was asking, and when I actually listened to Slotkin's answers, I don't think it was Slotkin that looked silly in that interview. Okay.
Well, wait, you said you had to watch it twice, Hutch, right? Why did you have to watch it twice to come to that conclusion, though?
No, I didn't. I watched it as a refresher, but I had the same exact opinion. You can ask my chat. We watched it at the time. I was like, this is fucking silly. Like the questions that they're at, and they're cutting her up.
I'm not even necessarily disagreeing with that. I'm not saying, oh man, Crystal Ball fucking owned Alyssa Slotkin. Like I'm not. that's like a falling victim to that. I'm watching, I'm like, Slotkin's not giving the answers that I think are making her look good here. Even if she is on the money for some of these, I don't think this is a good performance, and it makes me hesitant that if she's on a debate stage, that the same kind of questions are going to make her look good in polls when people reflect on the debate and say, I don't know, Slotkin didn't do well, even if I agree with her. That's what I'm saying.
Wow. I think that's the online bias, but we should talk about Orban a bit. We should.
Orban.
I want to hear Burns' take.
Wait, well, before we get to Burns, can we all agree we can vote out fascism? It's possible. This hope pilled me for the Democrats in the midterms, and it's like, wow,
Well,
like, you know, it's the meme, right? It's
Hutch
you
and I
guys
have
are
been
so
saying that.
vindicated. Yeah,
Walker
Guy
and I are
Hutch.
vindicated.
Wait, I'm white pilled.
It's our flowers.
I've been white pilled for a while.
I was always skeptical, but yeah, watching Orban get voted out, I'm
Dylan,
on board,
why
guys? Let's vote harder.
Why should Americans give a fuck about this? Why is this significant?
Well, I think Americans specifically, they should give a fuck because Orban was the model. Before there was Trump, there was Orban. And people have forgot for a while, but that Groove-sounding motherfucker has been lurching in the shadows for the longest period of time. You'd see him at CPAC, you see it at conservative conferences. Tucker Carlson was making fawning documentaries about how Orban saved Europe for the Fox News network before he lost his job and was interviewing people about sucking Obama's dick while on crack. So I think that what that shows is that Orban was a big influence. It was like a mecca for conservatives to go see how you could deal with migrants, how you could deal with the left, how you could deal with the LGBT propaganda. He was a culture war warrior in the middle of Europe. But
he was also like a competent usurper, right? Like, talk about the ways that he like concentrated power in Hungary. Like, how did he actually change the conditions to favor him and give him more power?
A lot of it had to do with what we would consider in the United States gerrymandering. It would be essentially a Hungarian version of gerrymandering, where there were instances where the opposition would win a much larger percentage of the vote, but then not get the competent seats that would align with those. So it made it so that
I had to wait till
somebody
later
donated
to actually
$10.
watch
They're
this
blaring
one,
my ears.
but
One
you
second.
did great on the digital ground game and PV streams.
What is your
Massive
dono
respect to
sound?
you for all your hard work and effort, Ukraine.
Somebody
Thank you
typed a
very
paragraph.
much, but I can't use those types of words towards Hutch. I think he's an okay guy, despite what you said.
No, don't
So-
be mean to Hutch.
I'm used to it. Bring it on. I don't give a fuck.
There was the centralization around the type of gerrymandering. There was centralization around the media, which is something Trump tried to do but failed. He tried the Orban model, where you take state media apparatuses, you fill them with your own cronies, and then you buy up media conglomerates. The taking over the state media avenue when it came to Kerry Lake and our version of like Voice of America, and that didn't end up working. The other side of buying up media conglomerates and having allies who are going to be more friendly towards you, this is something they're still aiming towards, but that was Orban. What we're seeing right now with how the conservatives are trying to buy up large-scale media, Orban was the first person to do it in Europe, and they're copying off of him. And so
and Dylan, they make it so obvious. I mean, they go there, like, you know, Dave Rubin, Tucker Carlson, and what JD Vance even, like, go and visit and like are like, wow, look at how great you guys are with these pro-family policies and their anti-homophobia and banning of pride parades. Like, they are so explicit, and we want to be you. So watching their, you know, like model of fascism,
they modeled it even further because
fail.
the guy who issued the anti-gay constitution, who altered the constitution because they hated the homosexuals so much, was also caught at like a 20-person gay orgy.
Oh wow!
I forgot about
Many such cases.
And the reason it was a scandal was also because it broke COVID regulations. So double layers.
He said, "Somebody stop me."
Did he do anything with the courts? And then also, I don't know anything about Poland, but I did some research recently, and my understanding was like a similar thing happened in Poland recently, right? Where they voted out someone who was like an authoritarian right wing who, you know, consolidated power in the media and changed the structure of the courts. I mean, was there anything like that going on in Hungary as well?
There is. You'd have to speak to like a Hungarian law expert to get like a deeper understanding of the exact functions. But it's essentially you have people in there that would be looking towards the the things that used to not be constitutional, but now would be considered constitutional. But the problem was, it wasn't a question of like, we're going to get this guy to rule in a way that would be illegal. He had so much power that he could just change the Constitution. And when you can change the Constitution, what would have been illegal before, you simply legalize your crimes and then you're good. I mean, Viktor Orban saw Hungary become the most corrupt country in all of the European Union. And he enriched his clique around him, and it was ultimately the administrative rot that was his downfall. That and the fact that his family policy started to diminish in effectiveness, where there would be an initial birth spike and then this huge programs that were handouts now required to be put out if he wanted to win an election would no longer actually increase birth rates. So it just became a massive burden upon the state as the economy continued to spiral, which the opposition found out they could compete with by just making bigger, brash promises.
And voting as one.
Somebody in my chat named Taylor wanted to clarify on the gay orgy thing. He said the gay orgy was just to understand the evils firsthand.
That is true.
Trump's undercover.
He should have,
defense,
if he
right?
would have waited a year, if he would have held on, he could have said, look, I did it as a patriot because I wanted to fight COVID regulations the most aggressive way I could think of.
I wanted to test if I was gay. I'm actually less gay because I know I don't like it. That was the whole logic there. But it's a good.
Reminds me, you guys know, like Dave Rubin going here and simping for this country, like despite the fact that they're trying to criminalize his.
He couldn't adopt he wouldn't have kids in that country. He couldn't adopt his son.
Well, he already had the Ben. Do you remember the Ben Shapiro interaction with Rubin?
Yeah, it was like, I wouldn't go to your wedding, and I don't support your lifestyle. In fact, I think you're.
He's like, you would go, wouldn't you? And Ben's like, no.
I do want to give a shout out to the Hungarian people, because when they passed those basically anti-gay protest laws, they were kind of going off of the Russian model in that instance. They passed it, and then the reaction from Hungarian civil society, and I think a lot of it was because Hungary had a strong civil society, had not these paramilitaries that could come in and suppress opposition like the Berkuts, which existed in Ukraine, that when the public came out and protested illegally anyway, waving rainbow flags, there were so many of them that what were they going to do? Were they going to fill the entire prison with like 100,000 people that went and protested? And so when they passed the law, they objected to the law. They couldn't enforce the law, and now they will repeal the law. And I really want to give a lot of credit to Hungarian civil society to spit in the face of those who try to take away your civil rights.
Well, actually,
100%.
I want to ask, what are your thoughts on the implications of this for like the Ukrainian conflict? I mean, I know that Orban was overtly hostile, and he even I think he even warned, like, if you elect, I don't know how you pronounce it, a Magyar, like they're going to send all your money to Ukraine.
Your sons, you're going to send your sons, they're going to send your money, they're going to send everything. Yeah.
But like, obviously he's a lot less hostile, but is this going to be, if he's making more of a EU push, friendly EU push, that he'll be in support of Ukraine, or like does this hurt Russia, as you say, because they were trying to emulate the Russian model? Like what will be the downstream effects of this in a year or two, maybe?
I'll put it bluntly. He's still Hungarian, so I don't think he'll be overtly that pro-Ukraine. I think he'll be pro-Ukraine as much as his political position can allow. But like anything compared to Viktor Orban is going to be pro-Ukraine. He's not going to send weapons, I don't think. He's not going to send aid, but he's not going to be the thing, the rock and the cogs, like stopping it from moving forward. Viktor Orban was actively blocking over $100 billion of EU aid that Ukraine needed if its budget was going to last. Like they had a few more months of money and then they were out. This was like a looming crisis that didn't get much coverage, and I became more and more nervous about, where Orban said he would have let the aid go through if Hungary didn't have to contribute, and they didn't, and then he blocked it anyway. He said he has no reason to block it and that the aid will go through, and so that will be a really substantive economic benefit to the Ukrainians. I don't think he's going to be giving, as his foreign minister, Viktor Orban's was, like every single thing that happened at EU councils or at EU committee meetings, the foreign minister would communicate that to Sergei Lavrov directly, like coordinating as if they were trying to sabotage support to Ukraine back and forth with Moscow. When we say that Moscow and Budapest were aligned during Orban's rule, they were aligned during Orban's rule. With Orban gone, there's not a big power in Europe to really throw like this rock in the machine. There's FISO, but he doesn't really he's too isolated, I think, to do much on his own, even if the Russians try to lean on him. There's Babish, but of course he's just the prime minister. He is not the president, and he doesn't have a majority of seats. And so Orban really was the biggest threat to Ukraine from in Europe, and now he's gone. And this is a huge achievement for not only Hungary and of course Europe as a whole, but it's going to be a real help to getting aid to Ukraine streamlined, because every time they tried to pass an aid package, there would be like a 4 or 6 month delay as they tried to deal with Orban trying to basically stop it every time.
I think there's another thing to note here when you brought up the enforcement of the law, the anti-gay law there, Dylan, is, we often talk about the difficulties in maintaining liberal democracy and democracy backslide and all that stuff. And, Benjamin Franklin, we have a republic if we can keep it or whatever. But let's not forget also that the kind of corrupt authoritarian administrations that Orban presided over and that Trump right now is presiding over in the United States, that they have their own challenges. Graft and corruption produce scandal. They are inefficient and they can cause resentment. And it's actually a lot of work in a society that has like a historical pattern of free and open discourse and journalism and that kind of stuff. A lot of work to tamp down on criticism. And especially here in America, I will say that like it's almost a national pastime to talk shit and to just be blasting all of your beefs online. And that is like a hard, I almost want to say like ritualistic or instinctual pattern to like clamp down on. And so that's just one thing I like to observe is that these administrations can be felled. They can be destroyed and a better one can come in its place. We can't be thinking that Trump is invincible. I see a lot of black pillers, and I'm glad that none of us are black pilled. But the minute you start thinking that these administrations are invincible, then you're losing a lot of your power and leverage.
Yeah, we're all red pilled.
I would say soy pill is black pilled.
I'm not black pilled.
Well, we'll see.
I'm like I cracked open a black pill and I took 1/10 of the powder within it, and I'm like, I'm not fully there, but I really wanted to try it and see what the effects were.
I mean, I do want to emphasize, like, I don't want to underestimate or like underemphasize like how important this is for Ukraine's defense and also Europe as a whole. But of course, Hungary, like, it got so bad that the Hungarian government was kidnapping Ukrainians to like hold them almost like for ransom. Like there was like a bunch of these scandals where,
Putin, what have you done?
Got him.
Wow.
Oh, he's back.
What's going
If I was
on?
black pilled, Dylan, Guy, and I wouldn't have helped raise $250,000 for the midterm.
Oh, shit.
Good job, everybody.
That's true. I saw
Awesome.
that. That's crazy. Crazy
I
numbers,
got
crazy numbers.
ejected there by Putin, but I was trying to say that they basically like kidnapped like 7 to 8 Ukrainian bankers, took like $80 million worth of Ukrainian state resources, and said like, if you don't repair Russian pipelines into Hungary for our fuel, then we're just gonna hold your gold and your money hostage. Like it got to the point where they were having like people taken and thrown in cells who don't deserve to be in cells. They're taking money, they're taking assets. Like it was becoming a physical confrontation. And if he won an election, I don't know how he would have escalated that and that pressure on Ukraine from the rear. And Ukraine's already fighting the largest country in the world. It doesn't need to fight a war on 2 fronts.
I think the last item on our agenda, boys, is the Ezra Klein article, right? I have about 9 more minutes, and then I got to debate deaf noodles. But yeah, that's a modern day debate.
You're gonna need it.
He apparently used to be like a influencer of some kind. I don't really know much. I watched a few videos of this, but whatever. But yeah, no, I'm interested. What
Our title does say failed peace talks, so we can just do 10 seconds. Hey, Trump's bad at this, right?
Yeah, it's horrible. I mean, it's horrible. They can't even characterize the preliminary agreements, and the Strait of Hormuz thing might be the worst ever. They're like, we don't need the Strait. We actually open the Strait, you fucking bastards. The Strait will open up naturally. We have an agreement to open the Strait. We'll collectively own it. We're gonna now block the Strait. So, like, what the fuck is happening?
We're blockading the blockade.
I can
checkmate.
I'll throw exactly what I think the strategy is. I think the strategy is, now this doesn't make sense for the midterms, but the strategy is to just block down the Strait. It could be, look, the Iranians were making more money post war than they were pre-war when it comes to energy exports. And so what you do is you shut down their ports, stop their ability to export. And so America's saying, well, if we can't have the strait, then you certainly can't use the same area to export fuel. And that means waiting out the Iranians, which means a much longer war potentially.
But are they going to stop Chinese boats, Dylan? I mean, because maybe they'll stop Iranian boats or they'll shoot at Iranian boats. But are they going to stop Chinese boats? Because Iran has been treating those boats differently, and they are not subject to Iran's blockade. Is America going to stop a Chinese vessel from going through the Strait of Hormuz?
I think probably not, but Trump has also stopped Russian vessels and before has seized them, and I didn't expect him to do that. So I would say probably not, because Trump has been more deferential towards Xi, but it's impossible to say.
Well, according to CENTCOM, they're going to, and it's more complicated from what I read. Like, you have to fly onto the ship, land with the helicopter, take it over. So that's risky. Then you have to take the ship somewhere and force them. If they won't pilot it, you got to have people who will. It's a big mess, and it's just not going to work. But I want to say quickly, it doesn't matter if they have oil going out. From what I understand, they already have like 130 million on ships that are headed towards China, their number one client. And I read that revenue will get them through the middle of July. So the question is, who can last until the middle of July? Us, the world, or Iran?
It depends if Trump wants to win the midterms or if he literally does not care.
I don't think he cares. He already said on Maria Bartiromo's show yesterday that gas will probably be higher by the time the midterms come. I mean, he's not even trying to
he said
lie.
it, or it could go lower, to be fair.
Yeah.
It could go either way. I don't know what's going to happen.
Well, I don't think he cares.
We got 5 minutes left for the Ezra article, and that wasn't on purpose.
Did you guys all read it? Did you read the article?
I did read it before
it's short.
the show.
Yeah, it wasn't too long. I mean, I agree with like pretty much everything he said. I think like there are so many criticisms of Hassan Piker that we could dive into, and we do very frequently. But the idea of labeling him an anti-Semite or a Jew hater, as far as like the third way goes, I just don't know if the evidence is like very strong for that. And of all the things to criticize him for and raise concerns of in the context of associating with elected Democrats and the potential, bad effect that would have on Democrats electorally, this is just like the worst way to do it. And you potentially like make him stronger and Streisand affect him with bad faith attacks. However, I will say that I felt like Ezra like not mentioning what that legit critiques are. I thought like that was kind of an issue personally, but I don't want to take up too much time because you only have 5 minutes here.
Well, didn't he criticize a bunch of the statement? I mean, he criticized the notion that the Nazis are like any ethno state, right? That America deserved 9/11. And so he did criticize some statements. And so I don't know necessarily it's irresponsible to cover Hassan unless you cover the laundry list of bad statements. And I think that it was a very like balanced article. I thought that it made like complete sense. I didn't really think that there was anything offensive about it whatsoever. And so, yeah, I'm glad that you didn't really take much issue with it.
I do agree it was more balanced than I thought it was going to be after the first title I saw. He did have one line in there I found very interesting. He said, often, and he used that term specifically, often anti-Semitism is cloaked in anti-Zionism. And that stood out to me. I know that's something that a lot of people talk about, but for him to say often, I think that doesn't get enough attention. But for me, the thing with Hassan is that people should go on his show, but challenge him. Ask him why he would vote for Hamas over Israel. Why does he think America deserved 9/11? Because Ezra, just to conclude, Ezra basically said, those clips are just clips, and he's a live streamer. He talks for hours and hours and hours, and it doesn't define him. Well, I'm sorry. My worst moments that you can clip of me do actually, they represent us to some degree. So, like, it doesn't excuse, like, your shitty line that you said because you stream for 9 hours. You're not going to catch me saying stuff like that.
Also, Guy, you just reminded me that's like, yeah, he says, I'm a lesser, because he doubles down whenever you ask him on these things. He'll say, like, I am a lesser of two evils, and I think Hamas is less evil. And it's like, how in the context of, like, the past 2 months where you said you wouldn't vote for Newsom over J.D. Vance, can you say that I'd vote for Hamas over Israel and call yourself a lesser
that makes no sense,
voter?
Yeah.
Like, that made me angry.
I just tweeted about that. I mean, no, 100%. I have no problem with people criticizing Hassan. And that makes no sense. Like, unless you're going to just not address the substance of that harm reduction comparison and just be like, well, I have a different strategy, and why are you even asking me about this? And obviously I'm going to treat differently Democrats in my home nation. I have but all of that is meta. And it's not actually addressing the comparison is like which you would be willing to vote for Hamas given harm reduction versus Israel. Why wouldn't you be willing if you're against the Iran war, if you're against ICE Gestapo, if you're against all this horrible shit, if you're against more warmongering in Latin America? Why isn't it just as an easy calculus? There's not a good answer there. And it really just is, I think, vibes. I really don't know that there's a satisfying way to answer that other than going meta.
Oh, God.
I wanted to talk to Soy actually about. We were both on the PV event, which created a lot of noise. So I did want to talk to Soy about this. I don't think we'll have the time about something else too. But I want to just throw out there that Hassan has said things about me that I would say that are uncouth. Right? I don't think everyone needs to know where I live. But
Called you a debate pervert, is what he called you.
a war tourist pervert. Thank you very much. Don't misquote him.
Okay.
Don't fake news.
Wait, why did he call you that?
It's a crazy
because
thing
I
to say.
interviewed Ukrainians about his takes on the war and things he said about the war, and he thought that was like perverty, but
uncouth.
I mean, I interviewed his fans in Ukraine, which the ones that actually exist, which they're very hard to find now. Would you believe it? But I'm not afraid of Hassan going on these big platforms. I'm comfortable sharing a platform with Hassan, even given everything that happens, because he's a grown man. This is a grown man's media environment. And if he gets in the right place at the right time on an issue that he's weak on, he will get torn to fucking shreds. If he ever gets in a room with Ukrainian and has to talk about Ukraine, he will not be able to defend his positions. If he gets in a room where he has to talk about a war crime scholar about, the bridge that was blown up, that's why I have no real fear about Hassan perpetuating the worst ideas in the long term. I'm worried about some bad ideas being perpetuated in the short term, but he's a grown man. He'll be treated like a grown man, and he'll have to deal with all the blows and all of the scandals that come with it, honestly.
Yeah, well, I agree with that, and I think the issue is he able to insulate himself from those more difficult conversations? And so when people ask, like, "Hey, why don't you go on this?" I especially want the people who are going to challenge him on that to be in those conversations, because otherwise he gets to take all the best parts of the framing and say, "Oh, look at all the stuff we agree on," and then completely avoid every difficult conversation about all his shitty
Yeah, he should come on Live and Learn.
So.
Absolutely.
Oh yeah, he'll definitely do that.
We'll invite him.
Hold my breath.
It doesn't feel like there's a lot of middle ground right now, because I feel like a lot of the mainstream media coverage of him, some of it has been, I think, unfair and would qualify as smears. But then in the other direction, we have like the Pod Johns, who I think use kid gloves with him pretty regularly. Like there was some pushback on Lovett's panel where Simone Sanders? Is that Simone Sanders? And Tim Miller, I thought, did a decent job of pushing back. But his recent conversation with Jon Favreau, I just think is like, it was an example of a bit of sane washing. And I wonder if there's some audience capture going on at Pod Save America. I wonder if they've staffed like Crooked Media with a bunch of like younger, more progressive people that are, that's creating that incentive for them. I don't know, but Favreau, I think does.
Why is that always the reflexive take, though? I mean, like maybe I'm sensitive to it because that's what people say.
I watched the whole conversation. It's not reflexive. I listened to the whole thing.
No. In the sense of that, you're basically accusing them of grifting. You're saying that they're doing this for money.
I don't know if it's about money. It could just be about like cultural pressure that they feel, but because I know that like I used to listen to Pod Save back in 2016, 2017. And so, these guys were always to me like definitely progressive and leaning left, but for sure pragmatic. And I always found their podcast to be like super insightful. It's just,
yeah, but is there any reason to think they're not pragmatic anymore? I take it on the disingenuous piece. Oh, sorry, on the cultural piece. But that is a form of disingenuousness. I mean, to be like, oh, because of our audience capture, we're going to say something we don't really believe and be lighter on these people disingenuoutly.
It's purely vibes based. I have nothing to substantiate it. I'm just asking, how did they get from that to where they are now, where they're a little bit more handholdy and
I think
kid gloves.
I think they overcompensate a little bit. I don't watch them too much, but I think that they're a little nervous about being considered too like mainstream, to establishment, and so they kind of overcompensate a little bit like that.
Yeah,
I don't know. I mean, I don't know what the contradiction is. I don't know what is inconsistent about their approach before. And I feel like a lot of the conversations about Hassan and like what should be done with him from Ezra or the Pod Save Boys or any of the discourse on Twitch politics, that oftentimes the people who are saying, well, we shouldn't do X, Y, or Z, they're grounded in like pragmatics, like, well, it will help Democrats if X, it'll hurt Democrats if Y. I don't know that at least many of the defenses here are ideological in nature. Well, maybe there's, go for it.
Well, I just want a Democrat to go on there and go, why do you hate America, dude? And I know people will laugh and say, oh, he doesn't hate America, but let's see what he says, So I'm just,
he would have a canned answer for that.
We're being blue-balled every time someone goes on there because he goes on a charm offensive and they fall in love with the audience and the lights and cameras. I don't know. But if for some reason, nobody can go in there and go, why are you so negative, man? What's going on, buddy? Like, explain to me why you hate all this and what your problems are. I'd like to hear it and respond.
Well, I mean, I think he would have a canned response for that. That would, he does these kind of monologues to his stream every single day. And so, I'm sure he would answer that question in great detail. It's just more about the contradictions. I think there's a lot of contradictions between his stated belief systems, his worldview, his prescriptions, and those I think are worth exploring. But I don't think he's going to have a issue rattling off a 10-minute rant about why America bad.
All right, Pisco, you got to bounce soon, right? Big debate for you.
I do have to go against Def Noodles. But I really didn't want to end because I've been having so much fun. I thought Dylan was an excellent guest. And I don't know, I just feel like it was really like fun, fluid conversation, man.
Yeah. Well,
yeah, I mean, I still have things written down to talk about. I mean, maybe I'll bully Soy into a private Discord call or something. I wanted to get to the.
I mean, I can stay later past Pisco. I don't know about the other boys here.
Yeah, if you want to go,
you guys can 100%. I just don't know how do I end my stream. Yeah, how do I end my stream?
Oh yeah, you had this issue where you couldn't.
Yeah, like because you guys had stolen my stream.
You just hit leave in the top right? You just hit leave.
I don't think that will do it. I don't think that will actually like end my stream where I need to stream.
Oh, I see. On YouTube, you can go on are you on YouTube and Twitch?
I'm on OBS. Yeah, I go through Restream and it's like it didn't work when I tried to do it last time because you guys were using my.
Oh, we had to end. Yeah, I remember.
On YouTube, when you go to Video Manager and then you click the icon that's like the fourth over from the right where it says View in Live Control Room. If you click on that, there's an option at the top right to hit end stream. You can do it from there. I don't know how to do that on Twitch.
Yeah, give me back my stream, guys. I need my stream. But I had a lot of fun though, and I do want to say, if you guys are interested, you guys should like have a Discord call or something afterwards. I wish I could stay longer.
If we have to end it, Dylan, just DM me if we want to talk more about the PV stuff. So.
Sure. I can DM you after if you guys still want to chat. I'm good to go for a bit longer because I don't know. I had a really big mug of tea and now I've got energy.
All right. Well,
we have to end this call, or Pico can't do his stream, so that's why we have to end this.
Yeah,
there's got to be a way to end it on Twitch, though. There's got to be a way to end it.
Well, other than your Def Noodles, anything else going on this week?
Yes, I might be talking to another congressional candidate, but more on that in a bit. I can't confirm yet, but yeah, Def Noodles on Trump versus Democrats. Who's going to be better? You can watch afterwards. You can keep watching our good folks here. But yeah, that'll be a debate going on in about 9 minutes.
Okay, cool. Guy.
Oh, nothing too exciting. Just doing my TikTok debates. That's all.
You always sell them so short. They're so fun. What's going on with you this week?
Oh, just same old covering the news. Tomorrow I'll be live around 9 a.m. West Coast time.
Cool. I am talking to Loanerbox tomorrow, I think at 3, and I guess I'll probably see if I can squeeze Dylan in then, if not sometime in the week. And then I think I'm talking with Wick on Thursday, and I might be doing a modern day debate thing, the same as Pisco, except on Friday with Andrew Wilson, but I also just might end my life before that happens, so we'll see what happens.
Tell him he's a pussy for not debating me.
Well, all you have to do is give him, what, 10 grand or whatever stupid.
Yeah, I just had to give him like $30,000.
Yeah, easy. And then Dylan, thanks so much for coming on. It was great. And anything for you going on this week, other than appearing on the famous Soy Pills stream? Other fun things coming up.
I mean, I'll be streaming. I'm preparing to head to Konstantinivka. I want to finish my documentary there. I've been filming on that axis for like a year, and right now it's like the worst part of the front. So I got to make sure I get the footage while the situation's going on now. So I'm kind of just waiting for the call because that was really hard to get. I had to like pull strings up to the president's office. It's the first time I had to do that, so it was really interesting. Bureaucratic process, hate it, but I'm preparing to do that. Oh, and I released a documentary, stalking ICE officers. At least that's what the government said.
Awesome. So yeah, his links in the description, his YouTube, and you can find everything else in there. There's link trees, and yeah, check everyone out, guys. Thanks for coming on, and keep living and learning. We need a catchbye.
Yeah, we need to
I'm living out.
later, guys. Thank you, guys. Appreciate you.
Good night, everybody.
Bye.
All right, Dylan. Great seeing you, buddy.
Good seeing you. Bye-bye. I was going to announce a project on Live and Learn. I'll have to announce it off of Live and Learn. I'll have to wait another day or two, maybe.